So there is a hurricane heading straight for us in the next 24 to 48 hours. And so in this short video, I will be sharing with you how it is I'm preparing my garden for the impact of a hurricane if we get directly hit. Let's go. Hey guys, welcome back to Mini Urban Farm, a channel about gardening and homesteading in the suburbs. My name is Veronica, and I teach people on this channel how to garden and homestead and raise their own food in the suburbs in a small space. If that sounds like something you're into, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Today we're talking about how to prepare your garden for a hurricane. I'm in Florida, Zone 9B, which is definitely in the path of a good majority of hurricanes on a yearly basis. We are just north of Tampa, which means that we have to deal with a hurricane coming straight at us in the next 24 to 48 hours. Now, I do want to remind you guys, if you are looking for gardening resources, I have an entire free gardening resource library. I will leave that in the description bar below, so don't forget to check that out. But yeah, let's just jump into how I'm preparing my garden for this hurricane that is coming straight towards us. Alright, so number one is to harvest everything that has the potential to be harvested. Now you can see my little bean plants have grown so much since the last garden tour, and of course they're not producing any green beans yet, so there's nothing to harvest here. But things like this, right, our scallions, which I'm going to come in here and pick out some of these really large ones that we can use for dinner tonight or preserve or whatever the case is. All of this, right, I'm going to harvest, and some of my lemon balm and all of that, right, I'm going to cut it back as much as possible, and likely some of my herbs as well. And of course, if I had any tomatoes or other things that I could harvest that were ready for harvest, I would be harvesting those as well. We are at the beginning of fall gardening now, which coincides with the end of hurricane season. So there's nothing really like up and running. If I had lots of salad greens and that sort of thing, I would also be bringing those inside, harvesting everything that I could potentially harvest, because there is a really good chance that when a hurricane comes through, those plants will not survive, and I want to be able to get as much as I can from the plants before they get completely destroyed. And next up is to bring everything inside. Of course, I have my little seed starting greenhouse in here, and my seed starting table with all of my stuff, right? Some little things for my worm bin here, and all of this stuff that could potentially be used as a projectile object by the hurricane. All right, so all of these things are going to have to come indoors. Anything that could go flying, right, like this could definitely just be picked up in the winds, as well as some of these other containers in here, and then, you know, my seed starting soil bin here that I have, as well as all of these plants. Now this is a pretty heavy table, so in a smaller storm I could probably leave it. I don't really, you know, need to bring this entire thing inside, but definitely like these tools here and everything that's on the bottom of it and everything stacked on top, I'm definitely going to want to bring all of that inside. I will probably bring the seed starting table inside as well, like actually inside the house. You can see I have a whole bunch of stuff already inside, just because it is going to, they're projecting it's going to be a Category 4 hurricane, and so that is not, you know, really going to withstand a Cat 4 hurricane. But if it's, you know, a little bit lower of a category, then you probably don't need to bring that in. I will be bringing in my seed starting like greenhouse thing here, my mini greenhouse, and as well as all of these plants, but I am going to wait. I'm going to bring in all plants tomorrow, all right, which is like when they are projecting the hurricane to hit in the afternoon or like evening time. I'm going to bring everything in the morning. And that is basically because I want to give my plants, and especially my seedlings, I want to give them time to absorb all the sunlight, because there's a good chance that they're going to be inside for a long time, right? Several days. We might be without power. The storm might last a day or two. The winds will definitely be lasting a day or two, and especially the rain and the outer bands of the hurricane, right? So I don't want to put my little seedlings back out until I know that it is completely safe for them to survive out here. So definitely we'll be bringing all of those things in. All the plants though will be the last thing I bring in so that they can still benefit from the sunlight. Now, I will say that that one is really important, right? You want to bring in everything that you possibly can, all right? Like I have all my potted plants. You see Milo hanging out here. All of my potted plants out here that I have lined up, ready to go. The grill will be coming in. my little rolling around over here, getting in his playtime before the storm. But everything out here will also be coming in. So if there's nothing in the yard, it's super important to have everything inside during a hurricane. But unfortunately, these raised beds are not coming inside. Like, there's no possible way I could just uproot everything and transfer all the dirt inside. Like, that's just not going to happen, which makes me really sad because these okra plants are finally starting to produce and they're looking really good here. So that makes me really sad, but you know, it is what it is. The only thing I might do is I might actually rip up this ginger that is doing really well. I might uproot that, and then you can always plant that again, right? Because you're just putting the roots, you're putting the actual ginger root back in. So I really want to save that. I've been growing that for months, but everything else is going to stay out here, unfortunately. And then the one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to cover your plants, right? And I know that that's counterintuitive, right? Because the first thing I would think to do is like cover them and make sure that nothing is like in place or whatever on top of them, like just trying to secure them down. But really, if you're going to cover them, you're just, first of all, adding something that could potentially go flying in the hurricane, no matter how well you think you nail it down, or cover it or whatever. But the other thing is that you are just allowing for other things to like fall on top of the tarp or on top of whatever you use, and then squish the plants. It's better to have a few plants that are uprooted, or several plants that are uprooted, instead of just having something like water just completely on top of the tarp and then squishing them down. So I will not be tarping these, of course, and the same thing over here, right? I'm going to harvest all of this stuff as much as I can, and then, oops, almost hit that tree there. And then my little salad greens here that are starting to do really, really well. I've actually tasted some of these. I forget the actual varieties of them, but some of them are really good. Like, they have a really good flavor. And then of course my little carrot seedlings in here and my ginger. Again, I might take the gingers up, but I'll do that tomorrow if I end up doing that. All of this is going to stay in place, and especially this, my compost bin, right? This needs to go inside. If the wind picks this up and the hurricane takes it, this is not only going to be completely destroyed because it's like in multiple pieces, but if it smashes down the floor, there's going to be dirt and compost and stuff everywhere. So it's actually, I just spun it, which is why this all is like right here. But all of this is like in progress. It's really hot in there, like warm hot in there, and so it's doing a really good job so far. You can see all my like peels and carrots and stuff like that, and so hopefully it'll be fine inside. It doesn't smell or anything, so that shouldn't be an issue, but like all of this stuff I'm gonna harvest and make sure to get it inside the house before the storm. Okay, so next up, what you're going to want to do is make sure that all garden projects are wrapped up, out of the way. All right, if you have like piles of mulch somewhere, if you have tools laying around, if you're in the middle of whatever garden project, now is the time to wrap it up. Do not wait till last minute. Just make sure that everything is up and out of the way. The same thing if you have like a lot of dead plants on your trellises and in your garden and stuff. Just get rid of them. Just trash them if it's the end of the season, or put them in compost or whatever it is you do with them. But thankfully I don't have anything right now because we are starting fall gardening. If you do have anything that is likely to just get ripped up anyway, might as well just get it out of the way right now. And the same thing applies to making sure that any trellising is sturdy. Anything that is like attached to the raised garden beds, if any of these actual like panels were really loose here, if they wobbled, which of course they don't, they're pretty sturdy in place, they're not moving or anything. If anything did need to be reinforced, now would be the time to reinforce it. The same thing with this trellis. I'm not really too worried about this going flying, right? It's not like too wobbly or anything. It's mainly just this part that's wobbly, but that's on there and I'm not really worried about it coming down. This I think is fine for right now, but if you had like cages inside, like tomato cages or anything, row covers on the actual rows, I would definitely encourage you to get rid of them. Reinforce anything that needs to be reinforced is the main point here. And then of course, lastly, what you're going to want to do is turn off your irrigation system. Mine is still on, the plants just got watered. I'm going to go ahead and set it to off, alright, because tomorrow the storm is projected to be here and there's going to be a lot of water, and I don't think the plants are going to benefit from having water again tomorrow before the storm. Now with this one it's tricky because you definitely don't want to turn off your irrigation system several days in advance, right? You want your plants to continue being watered. What's going to happen if you turn off your drip irrigation system several days before the storm is your plants and the soil around your plants will dry out, and then kind of have this, like, I forget what the effect is called, but when your plants dry out and then you pour lots of water on top of that dried off soil, it ends up just kind of like not absorbing the water as well, and running off the water from the soil, but also that stresses your plants out a lot. All right, if your plants are used to being watered a certain way, like if on a drip irrigation system, and then you completely don't water them, and then there's a torrential downpour, like a hurricane amount of water on your garden, that will definitely stress out the plants, and it's not going to go very well, and then you're not going to give them a good chance of survival and bouncing back after the storm. Alright, so once the storm is over, I will make an update video to show you guys what damage, if any, hopefully none, has been actually done to the garden. But after the storm, what I'm going to plan on doing is, first of all, making sure all the drip irrigation lines are where they're needing to be. I'm not going to be uplifting and uprooting the entire irrigation system, just because I think that for the most part, like, that's not going to fly away. It's kind of like weaved in between everything, so I think that's probably safe, but just making sure that everything stayed in place. And if there are any plants that are like uprooted or loose, I'm going to replace them into the soil as quickly as possible, all right, giving them the best chance to bounce back if anything actually has been displaced. And then of course just bringing everything back in to the garden from outside, and just making sure that, you know, it all goes smoothly from there. Alright, so one last tip I want to leave you with: if you are bringing in your plants into your house, the best place to put them is either in the garage or in a bathtub, alright? Because if they are needing to be watered sometime during that, you know, time spent inside, you're gonna have to water them and you don't want to make a mess. So if you're watering them in a bathtub, that would be ideal, or in the garage, because it's usually not as cold in the garage as in the rest of the house. It kind of mimics the outside conditions a little bit more, and it's a little bit warmer for the plants overall. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out my free gardening resource library that is in the description below. Wish me luck with the storm, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.